Welcome back to the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. Rich Walsh alongside Paul Zeise. And if you need a roof, no better place to call than Ireland Contracting. They're the best in business. They're #1 in Pittsburgh for a reason. 1-800-NEW-ROOF. But they not only do roofs, they do siding, gutters, windows, anything you need. Give them a call. 1-800-NEW-ROOF. Give us a call right now on the Borders and Borders hotline, 412-575-2600. We're taking phone calls. We're taking some tweets. Someone with Paul Zeise, Golf Jerk, just tweeted me. Golf Jerk, you know, I've played golf against him a couple times. He plays at Longview. I've seen him in some events out there. Good dude. He said, hey, great hair tonight. Love it. Thanks. That's the most important thing, that I had a good hair day. But he said, let's hope the Steelers lose out and fire Tomlin. I don't know if Tomlin's the problem, and I think if he would get fired, someone would pick him up in 10 minutes. But I would have to think that the Steelers would have to go like 4-11-1 this year and have a disastrous year next year for them to even consider firing him.
Yeah, they don't fire coaches.
Yeah, I don't.
And Bill Cowher had how many losing? He had a couple of bad seasons.
He had He had 5 seasons where they didn't make the playoffs.
I mean,
out
right
of 15.
in a row there, late '90s, they had a few seasons in a row where they held on with him, and that's the way they do things. So I just don't see that happening.
Yeah,
you know, it could get to a point where maybe he decides, Mike Tomlin decides, you know,
he needs a change.
He needs a change, and wants to go somewhere else where they're going to pay him a bunch more money and all that other stuff. But I don't even think that's the case. His kids are here. He's a part of this community. He's in an organization that treats him really well. Why would he do that? So to me, he's going to be here as long as he wants to be here.
You know, I rarely criticize Mike Tomlin, and I think he needs to come out and just shut this social media down. They need to do something right now. It's his chance to really turn this thing around and make an impact and, do what the Penguins do. No one's on social media with the Penguins. They don't allow it. Just do that with the Steelers. Just get off of social media. You don't see any Patriots on it. All the good teams, the guys are staying away.
Yeah, and I think the bottom line is I don't understand what is the benefit of it for any of these guys. If you want to get your message out or whatever, you know what? You probably should run it through a PR guy anyway.
Yeah.
Because it's not helping you when you say stupid things. If you're Bud Dupree, and here's the thing, you're Bud Dupree and you DM the guy like he did or whatever, you didn't think the guy was going to screenshot that and make a big deal about it? Come on.
Jason Samuels just tweeted us, could the Steelers franchise Bell again next year? They will most likely save $10 million this year on him and could apply it to the contract next year. I think he's done. I think this is his last year no matter what.
I don't know how you would do that, though. I mean, they could, but it would cost him. I think Ray Fittipaldo wrote about it. It would cost him like $21 million. Yeah,
he's going to get a raise.
Yeah, it's like
from this year.
It would be like $21 million is what they would have to pay him next year, which they're not going to do.
Yeah, so I don't think that's going to happen. And you're going to run into the same issue this year that you did next year that you did this year. He might not show up for 8 games.
Right.
All right, let's go out to the phone lines. We're going to go out to Dave out in Bell Vernon. What's up, Dave? What's going on?
Yeah, here's why I'm calling. Now, last week Paul said Kansas City stinks. He said Mahomes ain't any good. The only one of the things Holmes is good is Boomer. Well, I think Mr. Zeise missed that one, don't you think?
Dave, hey, Paul, is this one of your callers from the fan?
Here's the thing. I didn't say Pat Mahomes is no good. That's not what I said. I said, could we give him more than 1 game before we put him in the Hall of Fame, which is what Boomer Esiason was doing inside the NFL. I didn't say he's no good. I said it looks like the kid can throw the ball, but he has had 1 game, and Boomer Esiason is declaring him the best young quarterback in the league. That's what I said. Clean out your ears, dude. That's what I said. Okay?
Remember.
Now, Kansas City, their defense stinks, and guess what? Their defense does stink. We saw that this Sunday. Their defense is terrible. They've won because they've scored, 80 points in 2 games. That's why they're 2-0. I said their defense stinks, and it does.
Pomp had a good stat yesterday. Teams were 386-0 when they scored 37 points until Sunday. It's 386.
It's 37 points plus no turnovers.
Plus no turnovers.
That's
yes, correct.
Steelers are 37 points and no turnovers, and they ended up losing the game, which is the first time ever.
Yeah. All right, back out to the phone lines. We're going to go out to Mike out in Bethel Park. What's up, Mike?
Yeah, hey, guys. Appreciate your insight on Bell. Before I knew about that, I had an idea here. with all the distractions going on, this and that, do you see a possibility with their defense not being able to stop even a butterfly possibly? They could be 2-6-1, and Bell's not even coming back this year, going to sit the whole year out, preserve his body, and sign a mega contract next year with somebody else. And now that you said that he's putting that weight on, maybe he already sees his train down the tracks where this scenario might be happening.
Well, who's going to sign him if he's out of shape and gains weight?
But more importantly, if he sits out, the Steelers still would have his rights for next year. He wouldn't become a free agent.
Has to play 6 games.
They could control him. He has to play 6 games. So he's got to come in at some point. I would assume, like I said, what did I say last week?
You said after 4 games.
After 4 games, maybe 5. I would be shocked if it's much more than that because he could get hurt. They could make him inactive. They could do a lot of different things in order, if he comes back at week 10,
they have that 2-week exemption.
they could make sure that he doesn't get 6 weeks.
Exactly.
So I would think that he's going to give himself like 9 weeks to make sure there's a little margin for
Well,
error.
I think after the bye week.
Whatever it is, you know what I'm just saying.
That would give him 10 games.
Yeah, I would say 9 or 10 games or whatever, and then at that point he's got a little bit of margin for error if the Steelers want to do whatever they do.
All right, back out to the phone lines. We're going to go out to Jim out in Butler. What's up, Jim?
Yeah, hey, Rich. Did you see the coverage that the Jaguars used against Gronkowski on Sunday? Even the announcers commented on they hadn't quite seen any kind of coverage like that. Thanks, Rich.
All right, I appreciate it, Paul. You know what, to be honest with you, I didn't see. I'm sorry, Jim. I wasn't watching that game.
I was doing my post-game show.
I was
doing
working.
the post-game show during that game, so I didn't see what they were doing. My guess is they were using probably a safety or some sort of really athletic defensive back to cover Gronkowski, or maybe they were bracketing him, underneath and over top.
Take him out of the game.
But one of the things that you can learn from that, the Steelers need to get out of their base defense more, I think.
Well,
they need to put some more defensive backs on the field. Especially, you're playing against Kansas City. They got 5 receivers. They're completely empty set almost every single down. Your linebackers are not good at covering guys.
We saw that with John Bostic.
That's why you brought in Terrell Edmonds. Of course, we saw him
can't tackle.
But the bottom line is you got to do something. Play some more of these sub packages we keep hearing about.
Well, yeah, doesn't they have what's the dollar package, 7 DBs that we haven't seen
I don't
yet?
think we'll see that, but I'm just saying, you can't, you're not going to survive, I think, with your base defense. And I know they don't play it as much as they used to, but I still see a lot of plays out there where there's 4 linebackers or whatever.
The one thing that concerns me about this defense right now before we go to break, they don't have the playmakers like they used to. They don't have a Troy Polamalu.
But they should.
They don't have a James Harrison. They don't have a Ryan Shazier, guys that can make an impact. That's what I don't see right now. The guy that's always trying to make a big impact.
Well, let's see. Sean Davis, Artie Burns, Bud Dupree.
I mean, Joe
Watt,
Hayden.
T.J. Watt.
Cam Hayward.
That's at least 6 first-round picks.
Stephon Tuitt. Well, he was a second-round pick.
Stephon Tuitt was a second-round. That's 7 of your 11 guys were first or second-round picks.
And if you go, I mean, John Bostic was a second-round pick, wasn't he? We didn't mention him. He was a second-round pick. So, I mean, they have the talent, but they don't.
Their own draft.
Yeah.
You have 7 guys out of your starting 11 that are 6 of them first round, 1 second-round pick. You better have a playmaker or 2 of that, or else who the hell's doing the drafting? That's what I want to know.
All right, we got to take a break. Back with more of your phone calls, some of your tweets coming up next. Stay right there.